Second round off and running. March Madness continues here, and we've got you covered on the college basketball last call edition here of March Madness. Happy Saturday to you. We've got much to get to here in the round of 32, and you're in for a treat, as we certainly have two of the best here at WagerTalk.com to talk about some of these games. So we've got Teddy Covers coming up in just a couple of minutes off a absolute monster run yesterday in March Madness. Marco D'Angelo will be stepping up here in just a second. And do not forget, last call is all about you guys. So if you have any questions about these games coming up in college hoops, we may touch a little NBA coming up as well. But if you have any questions, this is all about you. Do us a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop your questions in the chat, whether it be Instagram, whether it be X, whether it be YouTube or the YouTube Shorts feed, whatever it is you're on. Go ahead. We'll get to as many of these as possible as we welcome in Marco D'Angelo, fresh off a Bruce Springsteen concert. I'll be honest with you, Marco, I didn't even know he was still alive. So that's actually fantastic news that you didn't go see a corpse last night. But welcome in here, my friend. You didn't stay to watch, apparently, I'm guessing, because you were out last night. You didn't hang around to watch the craziness yesterday, so good for you. But how was your day yesterday?
We went 2-1 for the clients, hit our top play, 4% play. Grand Canyon last night, came in with the outright upset. I don't release a lot of big plays. You know that, Joe. We're very picky on when we release a big play. That was only our second 4% this week. We're 2-0. We've hit 6 of the last 8. I've got another one today. And rumor is I may have a 5% on the Sunday card. We're going to confirm that after I get done with this show and finish today's card.
Oh, look at you. All sorts of damn fancy. All right, Marco, let's dive into one of the matchups here today, which I think is going to be interesting. And I think the public has certainly picked a side in this one. Coming up 5:30 Eastern time, scheduled tip between number 9, Michigan State, taking on number 1, North Carolina. Now, as somebody that's holding a whole lot of futures here on North Carolina, is there any way North Carolina can win and Michigan State can cover? Because I know there's an awful lot of people on Michigan State. How about you?
Well, there is, Joe, and I got to. What do I smell? Something smells fishy. How is North Carolina a number 1 seed playing a number 9 seed, and this line is only 4? I'll tell you what. Whenever, I was looking at the WagerTalk odds screen when the line started popping up for Saturday's games, I know, my eyesight's going bad. And I had to take my glasses off, clean them off, put them back on, and look a second time. And I said, yeah, that's a 4. Actually, there was even a couple 3.5s for a bit. And I'm like saying, what the hell is going on here? And then yesterday, I do a live show on Fridays from the Westgate here in Las Vegas in the Superbook, and we had Jake Orge on, and first question to him was, what's going on with this line? What did you do? And he said, that's what the market says the number should be, and that's where we're at. And I'm going, and he kind of, gave me the little puzzled look too. I ain't buying it, okay? Whenever I see something like this, there's a lot of people that like to say, hey, I got value. I'm going to run to the window and I'm going to bet North Carolina because there's so much value there. Well, no, I'm not. I don't believe in that. I don't think Vegas gives out that many free lunches, and something is awry here. And I'm going to go with the dog. I'm going to go with Michigan State. I'm going to go with that pedigree of Tom Izzo. He got the job done in grand fashion in the first round, and that was a game we talked about on Bet On It, and I pointed out, every year Michigan State comes into the tournament, people look at their one-loss record and are quick to point out, oh, well, this team won this many games, and this team won that many games, and why aren't they in, and why is Michigan State in? Well, what I said then, I'll say again, all right? It's because Tom Izzo doesn't care about November and early December. He doesn't schedule cupcakes or little sisters of the poor. If you go back and look, they had played Duke, Arizona, and Baylor. Okay, those 3 games on your schedule, that in itself, is enough for an early season confidence builder, get your team in the trenches. But they played all 3 of those games on the road, all right? That doesn't help your one-loss record. It doesn't make it look gaudy, but what it does do is prepare a team when you get to March, you get into tournament time, you're tested, and it pays dividends. And I'm going to ride Coach Izzo in this one, and I'm going to take the Michigan State Spartans here, plus the points. I think my adage I always say, Joe, give me the better defense getting points. And Michigan State is top 20 in scoring defense. I'll go ahead. This North Carolina wants to play it in the 80s. Michigan State wants to play it in the 60s. This would be a correlated parlay, so to speak. If you like Michigan State, you're going to like the under. If you like North Carolina, you're going to like the over. I'm on Michigan State.
Interesting correlation there, Marco. One that I think certainly the chat room can get around here. And a big shout out, by the way. It's funny, Marco.
Did we lose me or Joe? Joe. We lost Joe. That's a first. Well, I've always wanted the Marco D'Angelo show, guys, so here you are. You got me until we get Joe back. And if you have questions, man.
No, he's back. Yeah, no, that's all right. Don't you? It would help if I didn't hit the damn button, Marco, as I'm trying to monitor 14 different chat rooms. It's interesting. The Instagram chat room is all up in arms about Auburn yesterday. So it appears that there was an awful lot of people on Instagram on Auburn yesterday ready to go. The YouTube chat rooms are, they've already gone past anything that happened yesterday. They are all over NIT games. They're all over the board here today. So drop your best bets in, guys. Let's see what you are on right now. And to the Instagram chat, we apologize. Marco, did you see Yale blowing up everybody's brackets like they did yesterday, my man? I mean, that was just disgusting on so many levels.
Well, it was, Joe, and try doing a live radio show at the time that Yale was upsetting Auburn. You want to talk about the sportsbook going nuts when that score went final. Let me ask, does anybody have any brackets that are still alive? I know a lot of people have Connecticut going to the championship and winning it, so they're still alive on that end. But how's the other side of your bracket looking in the rest of it? Because everybody's going up in flames. Give Yale credit. They weathered the storm in that game. They hung around, and they made the shots they had to make down the stretch. And once again, I mean, we like to, pick on some of these coaches, but Bruce Pearl, once again, what can you say? We've had him, we've had, Purdue in the past, we've had Arizona in the past. Well, so far this year, Arizona and Purdue took care of business, which, was surprising to see both of them move along. And I know, Joe, my nemesis team is gone. I don't have to worry about South Carolina anymore. SEC, not really feeling the love so far after day 2 yesterday. A lot of teams not looking good in the first round.
No, mostly because they suck, Mark, of the SEC. Is most overhyped, overrated conference that there is. I mean, it's actually, at least Utah State won. At least one Mountain West team was able to get going there. So our good friend Kelly Stewart finally got a Mountain West win there yesterday. It took her a little while here. We've got some questions coming up about James Madison and Duke. We got Houston questions coming up on the Instagram chat. And, of course, any other games you guys want to talk about, let us know here. As Marco, an interesting question coming in on your Michigan State, North Carolina game. And the question is, what was that game against Mississippi State? Was Michigan State, in your opinion, that much better? Or did Mississippi State just play absolutely horrific in that one? And is that why you might be leaning towards Michigan State here?
Well, if you remember, I was on Michigan State in that one when we did bet on it. And, again, I'll admit it. I'm a Tom Izzo fanboy. What can I say? I like him in tournament time. He has his team prepared. And guys, this is an angle, not just, with this game, but, all of the games. When you're looking at the Thursday, Friday games, okay, coaching, we always want to have the experienced coaches, guys that have been there and done that. It's a huge edge. But it's not as big of an edge on the Thursday, Friday games because they have either 4 or 5 days to prepare their game plan, get their team settled down, execute, come up with the right game plan. But when you win your game on Thursday or Friday, now you got 1 day to turn it around. You got to keep your team focused coming off a win and moving on to the day 2. And you only have 1 day to get that game plan set. Now, I understand that whenever you have the 4 days, you are doing an advanced look. You don't want to always put the horse, the cart in front of the horse, but you got to prepare for the 2 teams that you might be facing. But coaches that have been there and done that, it is a bigger edge in day 2 of the tournament as you move forward. So again, is there anybody that's been to as many, big dances as Tom Izzo and had the experience and the success? That's another reason why I'm on Michigan State.
Yeah, like a bad rash, man. No matter what cream you use, you can't get rid of Tom Izzo, damn it. Absolutely horrific here. All right, let's move on there. All right, FB coach. All right, don't blame me because the SEC blows this year. All right, not my fault here. Kentucky got bounced by Oakland. All right, not my bad. Yale. I'm sure FB coach over there is out getting his Yale gear on here today. Stop it. Marco, we've got another game coming up here a little bit later today with a number 3 seed taking on another one of those, pesky lower seeded teams there, an 11 seed here in Duquesne. 10, I think, is what I'm seeing, up to double digits in this one, Marco. How should we approach Illinois and Duquesne coming up today?
Well, obviously, Joe, you know that my heart here is going to be rooting for Duquesne. How many people actually know where Duquesne University is? Yeah, it's a small school in downtown Pittsburgh, and what a story Duquesne has been. This is a team that's gone on a 9-game winning streak. They literally won their way into the big dance. That winning streak at the end of the season carried over, obviously, through the Atlantic 10 Conference tournament. They won that tournament and stole a bid. Well, what'd they do? Opening game. Well, before they got to that opening game of the tournament, after they cut down the nets for the Atlantic 10 championship, Coach Drambot told everybody, told his team, told the world, hey, guys, I'm retiring at the end of the season. Whenever that may be, it's up to you guys as far as we go. And what did they do? Well, very emotional game for Duquesne. They went out and upset BYU. BYU, the old saying, you live and die by the sword. Well, the sword that they swallowed was 3-pointers and a lot of long jumpers. This team, that's their MO, and it just didn't work. Duquesne played great defense. They weren't hitting their shots. Duquesne got off to an early lead and only gave it up once in the second half. They fell behind by 1, came back and got the job done. Very emotional win. If you saw the Duquesne players at the end of the game, I know we had a lot of talk earlier in the season about fans storming the court, storming the floor. I thought we were going to have a reverse storm the floor. The Duquesne players ran to their fan base. Man, I thought they were going in the stands. Yep. They were very excited pulling that upset. I don't know that they can do that again. Illinois is a senior-laden team. You look at the roster, it's loaded with seniors and redshirt seniors. We don't see that at big programs anymore. And that in guard play, okay? What are the things you want come tournament time? You want to have good guards, all right? Illinois definitely checks the blocks there, the boxes for that one. You want experienced veteran team? Well, as I just said, all these seniors on this team. And we want to talk about, as much as I like the Duquesne coach, and by the way, adding to the story there with Coach Drumbach, he gets a tweet sent out after he wins that game by who? Yeah, the king himself, LeBron James, congratulating him on the win. and putting the old goat emoji in the tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, that was his high school coach. So yeah, he's been around it for a long time, but now he's got to do this, turn it around in a day. Being a media darling in the last 2 days, that's another thing. Looking at these teams that pull the upsets that have not been on this stage. That was the first time Duquesne has actually even been in the big dance since 1977. Okay, and then they pull off the win. This is Illinois. I like the story, but sometime the clock eventually strikes midnight, and I think that is today for the Duquesne Dukes, the Cinderella. They go out. I'll take Illinois. They'll pull away late. Guard play, that's the difference. We'll take them. Lay the points with the Illini.
It's interesting, Marco. We're getting a lot of questions in all the chat rooms, really, and I don't blame them because the over also, when we think of Illinois, it seems like we should be thinking points, and more points. And to Duquesne's credit, they're not exactly the fastest team, but man, have they been on fire from outside, hitting threes from all over the place. Illinois is not a team I think that's ever going to take its foot off the gas. And it's not 150. I think it's 147 and a half. Do you think points are coming in this one? Is it worth a look at the over?
If you're going to play the game and I like Illinois, you're going to say, all right, well, we need Illinois to dictate the tempo. So, yes, a correlation with Illinois and the over there. The one thing that has been the difference for Duke, and I will point that out, but we're talking about a big step up in, class difference here. Down the stretch through the tournament in the last, month and a half of the season, Duquesne did turn it up defensively. That was what sparked this team on that 9-game winning streak. But again, big difference in competition from the Atlantic 10 to jumping up and playing the Illini today.
Yeah, no, it certainly is here. It's kind of crazy, and we're getting some. I just think some of these lower seeds. We're going to learn a little bit more about them. Are they one and dones? Is that the end of it, or are they actually on some sort of FAU run here, Marco? Can they put a couple of wins together, get to the Sweet 16, and kind of shock the world? Because those are usually the teams you want to jump on and make a few bucks on here along the way. A lot of questions about the game coming up top of the hour, Marco, with Dayton in Arizona. I don't know if you're invested in this or not, but I'm going to assume Dayton has no interest in getting to a track meet with Arizona, and that total hovering around the 149.5 mark. And it looks like a lot of folks have some questions about Arizona in this one, but I'll take it from let's take it from the total aspect of it, because again, we think of Arizona as a team that'll drop 80, 90 points on you. Dayton, that was a, unbelievable comeback there in that first game, but they don't scream over to me here. What do you, and the total hasn't moved, by the way. It's 149 for a month here. So what do we do with this one here, Marco?
Well, again, Joe, this is one of those correlated parlay type games. Mm-hmm. If you like Arizona, you're going to expect Arizona to dictate the pace and go up and down the court. If you're going to like Dayton, you're exactly right. They need to keep this game, try to play it in the 60s, low 70s. And, you bring up Arizona and Dayton. Well, let me just tell you this part of it, okay? We know the Arizona team and how they've stubbed their toe in the big dance in years past. They have wrecked more of my tournament brackets than I care to. That's been my tournament team that goes up in smoke every year at some point. And it's been earlier than later in most of the time. This is another one of those teams that look at it. And the problem is, most of us say the Pac-12 wasn't that good this year. Okay. So although Arizona rolled through it, really, how good is Arizona? I don't know. That's the problem with this game. Now, as far as Dayton goes, that's a sore subject because I was on Nevada. I had a nice ticket on Nevada the other day, and it was not good. If I was on live radio at the time, I would no longer be, because I would have broke every FCC violation known to mankind watching Nevada score 4 points over the final 7 minutes and 14 seconds of the game after blowing, would they have a 16, 17-point lead? It was absolutely insane. So the problem with this game, and personally I am not on it, if you put the gun to my head, which is one of the most stupidest sayings, but if you did, I would lean to Dayton in this game because I just don't trust Arizona. And I think most people will look at it and say Dayton was lucky to get here because of the collapse of Nevada. It was a collapse on Nevada, but you need two things to happen. You need one team to collapse, and you need the other team to put the ball in the hole, and they did that and made stops. So, do they build on that momentum off of that win? Sometimes teams that win ugly, as we say, that starts them on a run. So slightest of leans to Dayton, but tread cautiously because I really don't know how strong this Arizona team is.
Yeah, we got a couple of other games coming up, guys. Teddy Covers is on deck. He's going to step up here and join us in just a couple of minutes here, and he too will have a couple of big game breakdowns for you as well as a best bet. And I know there are some questions for Teddy here, but don't forget, hit that thumbs up. Those of you joining us in YouTube here right now, we'd certainly appreciate it. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the WagerTalk TV channel. We certainly appreciate it. Instagram, big shout out to Stockton C93 here on Instagram. We got a bunch of questions coming in on IG here today, and one of them has to do about Kansas, and it looks like Gonzaga here. The only thing that worries me about Kansas, Marco, is do you trust they have enough depth? I wish they would have had anybody but Sanford in that first game. Anybody but Sanford, which I think you had, in fact, on that first game there, because I'm worried that what happens in the second half, do they have enough horses remaining in order to make a run at this? Would you be, well, it's 4 now, right? I think they're getting 4 in this game here today. You always love Bill Self as a dog, don't you?
Absolutely. Now, obviously, the question marks, as you said, is the depth because of the injuries with Kansas. And, this game being played, in altitude, or, what's going to happen in the second half. But I think the market has just overreacted a little bit to this Kansas situation. We've all taken turns, and, obviously our good friend Kelly Stewart, she doesn't like Kansas because she's the big K-State fan, and we've all taken turns of bashing them this year because they have not been good, down the stretch. But, they were missing a lot of key components, and they're still missing, one of the big guns from the lineup. But Gonzaga, I'm going to tell you straightforward. I watched Gonzaga all year. I saw them in person here in Vegas in the West Coast Conference championship game against St. Mary's. And yes, they're good, but they are not as good as the Gonzaga additions we've seen in past years. And again, we know the West Coast Conference. There's 2 teams in it. Then there's a little bit of a drop off to the next 2, and then there is a complete, jump off the cliff to the rest of the conference. So don't overreact too much to that big Gonzaga win the other night. And everybody is looking at Kansas. They had the big lead, and they almost blew it. Did they run out of gas, whatever? Sanford was a decent team, and they're one of those teams that's pesky, that, is going to just keep coming at you. And they did tire out, and I thought Kansas down the stretch started to play not to lose instead of playing to win. And, Joe, we know that never works out well, especially if you're laying points. It never works out well. But too often times, a team will just back themselves right into a loss doing that. Kansas is playing with house money. They're the underdog. They're not supposed to win. So they can go out there and just free will it. I think that this one, it may even get to my card. I have them on the waiting list here, but I'm waiting to see what the line does. I'd like to get a little more. I'd like to see some of the public come in and, do that recency bias with what they saw with their eyes when the public gets involved right before game time and give me another, half a point of value here. But I think this line is just a tad too high, so the value play would be with Kansas.
Yeah, I agree here. It was 4.5 this morning. It looks like there is some money coming in on Kansas, dropping it down to 4 in a lot of spots here. Also, that total at 151.5. Kansas is going to have to keep up, right, if they're going to stay within that number. So don't hate the look to the over either. We'll get one more game in here, Marco, as big shout out to those guys, Bill Sandoval, Big Daddy. Little bull in the house here. FB coach still yelling and screaming about that Yale win yesterday. And I got you there, my man. But Chris Dugan wants to know, and I don't know if you looked at it here, Marco, any NIT spots today. And the one that stuck out to me was the total in Seton Hall in North Texas. How in the hell we're playing anywhere even remotely close to an over is beyond me. I think the first 1-50 wins that game. I am expecting maybe a little more defense now that we've gotten past the first couple of games or so there in the NIT. Do you look at any of these outside tournaments, the CIT, the NIT, Marco? You look at any of these?
I try not to.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay, there's always some spots. Well, especially that first round. Joe, these teams are jumping on a plane the next day. They're playing a team they're not familiar with, and they got to put a game plan together. And that's why, as you point out, and I'll make a reference to the total, you do see overs more in that first round game of the NIT than you do in any of the other rounds, because they don't have anything to, preparation-wise. They're not totally prepared for the teams. And we know that if you don't put up a fight defensively, most teams are capable of scoring, okay? And they are going to score, and the games are going to go over the total. But then what happens in the second round, you got, a little more time to prepare. You got a game under your belt, so you got some confidence, and you will see defense surface more in that second round game. So with that said, I agree with you. It's going to be a lot tougher for these teams to get to the over, especially in that one. The only other one that I took a peek at in the NIT, because I like when a favorite has a scare and moves on. Okay, well, that would be Cincinnati. Okay, they had their scare. Now they're back as a favorite again. I would look for a better effort out of them tonight. They're staying at home for a second time. And again, the NIT tries to, spoon feed who they want to get to the championship Final Four. But yes, if I looked at one in the NIT, it would be Cincinnati. And I agree with you on the under in that North Texas game.
Yeah, that was it. 135.5. I think it's even down now here. 134, 133.5. So that would be the NIT look there. Robert, we're going to get Teddy Covers coming up here in just a second. Has a great question about the NC State game coming up here. We also have some questions about a game or two coming up tomorrow, in fact, in which I do happen to like that card a little bit better than today's. But Marco, before we get you out of here, I heard Bruce Springsteen's calling. He wants his wig back. Can I get one final reminder to the folks that are tuning in here right now, what you got rolling today, what's locked in, and how do people hop on board here and partner up with you?
Well, if you want to jump on for just the day, then grab a 1 day all access. You can grab that for $39. You'll get every play I make today. If you want one big play, check out my 4% play going tonight. Like I said, I've only had 2 of them this week. We had Washington State on Thursday night. We had Grand Canyon last night. We're 6-2 with those plays over the last 8. But if you want all of my plays, you want to be a VIP, all sports, grab my VIP all access package. It's $649, but listen to everything you're going to get. All my college plays through the Final Four, all my NBA plays through the NBA Finals, all my hockey plays through the Stanley Cup, and Major League Baseball through June 23rd. Why that oddball day of June 23rd? Well, that's the latest possible day that the NBA playoffs could go. And then, of course, you see those 3 things on the bottom. Triple Crown, you'll get my Kentucky Derby, my Preakness, and my Belmont Stakes selections as well. Everything for $649. It's a lot of service. You can grab that over on my homepage at WagerTalk.com. wt.buzz/MD is the shortcut to get you there.
Ooh, love it, Marco. That's right. And don't forget, guys, Marco and I will no doubt have an opportunity for the Derby coming up here. We'll have some great content coming up on that. It seems to be the only day that people who know nothing about horse racing jump in and spend trillions of dollars betting it, and we'll help you along the way there. So we have got you covered. All right, Marco, outstanding stuff, man. Best of luck today with the plays, guys. Make sure you visit Marco over at WagerTalk.com. And, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, as nobody has more daily and weekly content on all the big games across all the sports than we do here at WagerTalk TV. All right, quick shout out to the chat room here today on this round of 32 Saturday. George Wood in the house. We'll answer that question for you, George, about Oakland and NC State here. We're going to dive into that game. I know a lot of you have got some questions there. Little Bull in the house. Julio also here. Bill Sandoval, Boudreaux, all over Gonzaga here today. Big Daddy ready to roll here, fading on Kansas. So you guys rock. Big shout out to Jay Weezy here joining us on Instagram, as well as Scotty Maturi. Appreciate you guys. Carolina Beach Gear joining us here as well. You guys roll. Any questions you have about today's slate, tomorrow's slate, and hell, we'll even talk NBA if you like here as the slate of games are coming up. And, the guy that knows a little something about the NBA and coming off a monster day there is one TC, Teddy Covers, in the house. Teddy, welcome in, man. Congrats on a monster day yesterday, my man. Oh, is he? Oh. Well, wait, hold on, Teddy. I can't read lips that class. I think you're muted on there, but there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Right. I was sitting waiting for Marco to finish, and I had to mute myself. Otherwise I'd be chiming in the whole time. But thank you, Joe. It was a real good day yesterday. 5-0, but honestly, that's just a piece of that's the tip of the iceberg. We've been running good basically since November. My 9-6, I think, last 25 releases. The college hoops has been really hot. The NBA has been really hot, and we'll see if we can keep it rolling today on Saturday.
I love it. All right, well, we have a opportunity for you to partner up with Teddy. We'll tell you about a little bit later here. But, Teddy, let's dive in to a game today coming up, round of 32. And I believe we're going to be looking at one game that we haven't I haven't heard mentioned in the chat room, which is great. What do we do with Tennessee and Texas here? A 2-7 matchup today, Teddy. 6.5. I'm seeing 145, 145.5. How are you approaching this one?
So it really is a fascinating game. And Texas, Tennessee, the biggest case that I can make against Tennessee is the Rick Barnes factor. And we're waiting for Rick Barnes to show up. That being said, the team reached the Sweet 16 last year. It's not like he's never had any wins in this month. And Tennessee's way the better of these two teams. I don't think it's necessarily all that close. Texas, offensively, is a decent squad. I think they're going to have a lot of problems matching up with Tennessee. Tennessee's athleticism, Tennessee's size at every position on the floor. The Longhorns in a half-court game can really struggle on the offensive end. And this feels like that. I'm not going to call it a Virginia-level performance or a Colorado State-level of performance from Texas today. But I do think the Longhorns are going to struggle to get to 60 points. And that puts me straight on the Tennessee side, and it puts me towards the under in this one, even though I do think that the Vols will push pace a little bit. I just trust that team defensively. And Tennessee's one of these squads. It's like one of the things I like to do in March is find teams or look for teams that have an A-plus pedigree, that have the talent level, that have the NBA players, future NBA players in the roster, but their season's been a little bit choppy. Tennessee certainly falls into that category a lot more than Texas does. Teams like that haven't always overachieved all year tend to be pretty good point spread value. So, yeah, I'm looking at Tennessee. I'm looking at the under, and I'm looking at the Texas team total under in this one.
Yeah, Teddy, I've seen a lot of questions about live betting some of these games here today. I think we talked about it a little bit on the college basketball show yesterday here on WagerTalk TV at some of the approaches. What advice would you give to folks saying, you know what, I don't like this number, but I'm thinking, maybe if I'm watching it, there'll be an opportunity to jump in. What is the best approach for those that looking to live bet here this weekend?
Don't take bad numbers, all right? Let's say 10. I see people doing live betting all the time, all right? We like Tennessee for the game. Tennessee gets out to let's call it a 20-10 lead, all right? And now instead of laying 6.5, they're laying 9.5 or 10.5 with the Vols. That's not a recipe for success. What you want to do when you want to bet on your team in live betting is after the coach you want to bet on, the team you want to bet on, calls timeout in disgust. And the other team just went on their 8-0 run or their 12-0 run or their whatever it was. You want to bet a team when their chips are down, all right? When the market is offering value for that team, as opposed to the point in the game where that team has played well and now you're laying more than you would have before tip-off. Now, it's a different scenario if we're talking about a game you expect to be a blowout. You expect to be a blowout, you're laying and then you're laying more and then you're laying more. But the vast majority of these games, one team goes up early, you can count on the other team coming back. That's just the nature of college basketball. We've seen it happen over and over again over the first 2 days of the tournament. We'll see it happen over and over again over the next 2 days of the tournament. So my biggest single piece of advice is get good numbers.
Yeah, don't bet into bad numbers, guys. That's you want the action is great, but try and get it to a point where you're not betting against yourself here. Teddy, there are still a lot of people very up in arms about the Auburn loss. Obviously, Kentucky fans. What is there one underdog win here that surprised you the most here? Or was it Auburn? Was it Kentucky? Was BYU getting crushed here? I mean, what is the one game that you looked at and were like, well, I didn't see that coming?
So let me start with this, all right? Every March is going to be upsets. I know some people are up in arms about it. Yeah, okay, Yale played a good game. They hit some shots, It happens. Duquesne hit some shots. What was the biggest surprise to me? I think NC State.
Yeah.
I did not. When you play 5 games in 5 days and go up against a team like Texas Tech and dominate them, I was surprised. That to me was as big of a shocker as I've seen in any game in this tournament, and it changed my opinion about the Wolfpack that one game, which means they'll probably lose.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Chad. We do have a bunch of questions on this game here, and I guess maybe the biggest question about the game is how confident are you that and teams playing with house money are always interesting, right? Oakland is an extremely interesting team because they have nothing to lose. And quite honestly, Teddy, they played that game like they had absolutely nothing to lose. But how sustainable is that going into a game in which a team has now won, 6 games in 8 days, 10 to something along those lines? How sustainable is that?
So we don't expect that kid from Oakland to hit another 10 threes today. All right. That being said, that was only half the reason that the Grizzlies won. The other part of the reason was their defense was really sticky, and it's a difficult matchup because teams don't see it. It's a funky looking zone. And that has the potential. Again, you don't want to say it's going to, but that has the potential to create problems for NC State. And obviously, it's an NC State team right now. My problem personally, and I'm not betting the game. Let me make this clear. I have no action on this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those games that went back and forth, and I go back and forth. I usually leave it alone unless all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, that's the one thing that clicked. NC State, they played all these games in a short amount of time. They won them all. They're playing, The question is, are they playing over their heads? Or is this now what NC State is? They're a lot better than their season-long power rating would indicate. My tendency as a handicapper is to look for teams like NC State that are clearly undervalued at this moment in time because they're playing far better basketball than their season-long numbers would indicate. So that indicates a bet on NC State. However, when you're talking about a team that won 5 games in 5 days, played and they didn't get the extra day. They played Thursday and now playing Saturday. So obviously, there's an exhaustion factor that comes into play. There's at some point, this team's going to exhale. And if they're facing a team that's playing some sticky, weird defense that could give them problems, well, maybe today's that day. So it's not a game I played. I went back and forth on it, and I'm not in action.
It's a tough game because you try it at this point in the season, Teddy, best to limit the variance and try to avoid the games in which there is just an inordinate amount of things that can go hard left, and you're fighting the recency bias for those that are watching. But there are other games where you just got to look at the team and figure, and we talked about it with Marco. A lot of folks coming up love this Arizona team. They're not afraid to lay nearly double digits against Dayton. Dayton was I believe the third best 3-point shooting team this year. Over 40%, Teddy. Does that come into a factor when you're thinking about a team that has to win by 10 points here with this Dayton squad?
So I'm not looking at any stats, all right? You read these write-ups on these. This team had finished 197th in this category and 125th in that category. And, it's not about – the stats are well baked into the number, okay? It's about matchups. It's about situations. It's about momentum. It's not about stats, at least in this bettor's opinion. Now, Arizona literally ripped my heart. It just took my guts and cried. That game really affected me because Arizona did like what the write-up said they were going to do is exactly what they did. Yeah. I'm like, Long Beach is going to freaking take a bunch of bad shots early in the clock. There's going to be a ton of possessions. They're not going to hit those shots. Arizona's going to pull away at some point and run away with this game. And they did, and then they emptied the bench for the last couple of minutes. And that was that. And missing free throws. I think they were 1 of 8 down the stretch. And they didn't cover by a hook. If you were lucky, you pushed with them at the end if you got the best of the number. I did not. So Arizona threw me for a loop, and I was pissed. I'm like, I'm not starting this tournament. Like, and since then, that was like the kind of a little bit of the turning point for me in the big dance. Because since then, it's been real good. I had to. I went and got a haircut. I had to go. I had to do something. I was all discombobulated after that Arizona game, that hook. We're seeing a sharp money for Dayton this morning. All right, significant sharp money for Dayton. This line's down to 8. I don't want to overreact to Arizona missing a free throw and emptying the bench at the end of the last 4 minutes, and the fact that you have I like in general in the second round of the tournament teams that didn't cover first round. There's no betting bandwagon for those teams. So in general, I'm looking for teams like Arizona. I didn't play them here. I'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. But it's not a game I play. Look, I'm not looking for extra action. All right? These lines are as tight as a drum. Half of these games are going to come down to someone hitting a free throw or someone hitting a three-pointer. Literally, these lines are real. I'm looking for 1, 2 good bets. And that's all I want. Everything else will be in-game. And everything else will be in-game in the sense of this team went on a 12-0 run. Let's bet on that team right now. That's what I'm looking for. That's how I'm approaching the tournament today and, frankly, moving forward. If I find a dozen good bets between now and the end of the dance, I'm happy.
You're right. Exactly correct. Yes. 40. Yep. As long as you got an edge. As long as you feel like you have an edge, you're good to go. Now, let me ask you this here, Teddy, because you did mention something interesting there where style makes fights, right? So not necessarily all about the numbers. It's about how does the team match up. Now, I watched maybe 6 minutes of last night's Wisconsin game, 6 minutes of the St. Mary's game, and it clearly showed that one team, the style of one team was heads and tails. It was just going to give the other team all sorts of fits here. The speed, the athleticism of JMU Well, they didn't know how to handle it, Wisconsin. That was out. Same thing last night there with Grand Canyon, too. A lot of height, a lot of size. It was a grind fest, and St. Mary's had no answer for it. So is there a game coming up or a team that won in the first round here, Teddy, that you're looking at and being like, you know what, this team is a fade for me after what I saw from?
So I can't put that much on a single game. All right, Joe, you watch college basketball all year. I watch college basketball all year. Half the people betting on these games, the first college basketball games they watched this year, were on Thursday. You know,
right?
or a fair few. I'm not going to let one game create an overreaction out of me. All right,
right.
I want a team that didn't play their best on Thursday or Friday and is still alive in the tournament to potentially play their best this weekend. But you know, who survived in advance that probably didn't, you know, shoot, I don't know. Is Yale going to stick around? I mean, Utah State's not beating Purdue, or will they? I mean, it's like Utah State's a capable team. They can beat somebody. I'm not shocked that Utah State ran out TCU last night. I think Duke beats James Madison, though.
Oh. Well, see, now that's the other thing, right? So the advantage that, you know, and this is another thing, Teddy, too, right? In the tournament, this isn't a conference. You didn't play these teams twice already in the year, right? So all you have is film on them, and you can't replicate the speed or the athleticism of a team watching the film until you get out there. And if it's not something that you're used to, well, that's going to cause some problems. But that changes round to round, right? So the advantage that you had, let's say, for instance, you're talking about Duke coming up here. Well, the advantage is that they had prior to the Duke game last night is that's not an advantage. For Duke is not going to be, you know, they're not going to be overthrown or overwhelmed by the athleticism of this team, right?
No. Wisconsin, I mean, Wisconsin wasn't overwhelmed by the athleticism. Wisconsin didn't play a good game. But Marco said something really astute in his segment that I want to reemphasize. All right. We talk a lot about coaching. We always talk about coaching after the games. You know, Izzo in March, you know.
Yeah.
The biggest edges for coaching mismatches is going to be the short turnaround games, not the full week turnaround games. There's a reason certain coaches make the Sweet 16 more than they should. And this is what we're talking about here. We're going to reach the Sweet 16. This is where your coaching edges are real. And when you find a coaching mismatch in this particular round, I'm more likely to bet it than any other round of the NCAA tournament. Yeah,
it's a great point. Been there and done that. And listen, Shogun Mike there, not happy with Wisconsin at all.
Let me jump in on that.
Go ahead.
Real quick. It's really important, all right? Wisconsin has burned me in college football. They burned me in college basketball. That whole program is being avoided forever. No. Just this year, okay? Just come back next year. Look at them fresh. There are teams every year in college basketball or college football or NBA or whatever sport that I just don't have the right read on. All right? Then, you know, I just can't pick them. I can't bet on them. I can't bet against them. I can't bet over. I can't bet under. I can't bet first halves. I can't bet full games. I don't say, I'm never betting that team again, that program, that whatever. You say, all right, this year, I don't have a good read on that team. We're going to leave them alone. Next year, try again. Don't try again. So that's my take. And I appreciate someone wrote a nice comment about my beard. Dude, this is only, it's like a couple of weeks, dude. I think I grew up like Super Bowl. I started, after Super Bowl, I grew it in. And it won't last. The first time I sweat, it comes off. But it's been freaking cold in Vegas. So it stayed on a little bit longer than I should. But it won't make it to April, I don't think. I hope not, unless it stays cold.
Sorry. Well, listen, you guys, you will get nowhere. You will not know philosophy when it comes to sports betting, beard advice. You will get none of that anyplace else other than here on Last Call on Wager Talk. And again, a big shout out to those joining us on Instagram as well as X, and YouTube, as well as YouTube Shorts. Guys, this is all about you, this show, if you're joining us for the first time. We are about 8 minutes away from the top of the hour. Obviously, first game up, I believe, is going to be that Arizona game. A lot of college basketball here. So if you have a question about a game today, maybe coming up, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, drop them in the chat room here, guys. We're going to go over as many as we can. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. The thumbs up, we'd certainly appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. But we can't forget about the NBA as well there, Teddy. See some NBA chatter going on in the chat rooms here. So you do have a game, in fact, that you were looking at here today in the association, as we've got, 2 weeks left in the regular season here, Teddy. It's an interesting handicap in the association this time of year. What game did you look at?
I think it's 3 weeks left. It better not only be. It's got to be 3. Yeah, no, you scared me there for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. I thought they have about a dozen games left. The first game on the card, early start, starts 1:10 Eastern time, 10:10 Pacific. I figured I'd give you guys some actionable information for an early start game. The current odds that you're seeing on the screen have not current anymore. We've seen Nets money. We've seen under money. WagerTalk live odds screen showing us the New York Knickerbockers now -7, total sitting at 203, pretty much across the board. Why is the money coming on the Nets? Why is the money coming on the under? Let's put it this way. I agree with both those moves. We were going to talk Nets and under in this one. Why do we want the Nets? Let's start with the pretty dismal spot for the Knicks. The one thing you don't want, you really don't want, when you're an East Coast team that's been on a West Coast road trip, a successful West Coast road trip, you get home and now you play an early start game. And I can tell you, when anyone from the West Coast flies back east, you're gassed because early morning comes real early. 7 a.m. feels like 4 a.m. So if you're on West Coast time, you got a 10 a.m. start or for an NBA game. I don't think that bodes well for the Knicks, at least early. And then we talk about Brooklyn. Obviously, the Nets have fallen out of playoff contention, likely playoff contention over the last couple of weeks. That said, we saw them fight tooth and nail in Milwaukee the other night. All right. An effort game, a wire-to-wire cover game where they led deep into the second half. And I'm expecting more of the same today at Madison Square Garden. Now, I think the better bets, again, might be first half. I like first half under between two teams that are playing extremely slow and playing all defense right now. And I think the Knicks come out sluggish. Brooklyn first half makes a whole lot of sense to this better as well.
Ooh. Man, I love that little early NBA action here, getting ready to go on the card here. And yes, we're still NBA. And despite most everyone paying attention to what's going on here across the board, there is still some NBA going on here today. Let's not forget that, Teddy. I mean, it's important.
Well, dude, there's never, I swear to you, and again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but year in, year out, in the middle of March Madness, I beat the NBA. I mean, it's been like it's clockwork, all right? Because there's certain things that happen this time of year, all right? The dead teams become dead in the NBA. You just bet against them. You don't think about it. You find these streaks from teams that don't have great season-long stats, but picked it up after the All-Star break, and those are teams you can ride again and again and again. I'm riding one of them today. The bottom feeders are easy to fade. You can lay chalk in a way you couldn't lay earlier this season. Yep. Things are very readable at this time of the year in the association. And the markets don't pay that much. They're putting up numbers. It's season-long power rating numbers. I love March basketball. I love March NBA in particular. I mean, not that whatever. College basketball's awesome too, but March NBA, it's just like the markets sleep and all we do is make money. So yeah, we're in action today.
Well, that was the rule of thumb, right? So everyone's focus and attention gets out of the NBA market and goes over to college basketball, and yet settle down. You made an interesting comment yesterday. We were talking about, we said, do we trust the Celtics with an injury list this long? Nobody knew who was playing. They were playing Detroit last night. And the comment that you made was, it's a lot of points, but I am not getting in front of the Celtics train here. It just seems like the Celtics and the Nuggets where it looks like the market, like, oh, we should fade them here. Like they are just ramping up, it feels like, Teddy, to make a run. There is no scheduled losses for Nuggets and Celtics, is there?
So I made some money betting against Boston as home chalk earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
A good handful of occasions. They were laying big prices in games that they weren't necessarily going to be motivated for, and then they found ways to win, but not always cover. I think I might have stepped in front of Boston once since the All-Star break, and I was like, yeah, maybe let's find ways to back Boston, not step in front of Boston now. And look, I mean, if both teams stay healthy, I expect to see Boston and Denver in the finals, period.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, then somebody else will get in. But those are clearly the teams to beat. All right. The defending champs and the best team in the league this year. Does that mean they're on? And I think it'd be a great series, a great finals, Nuggets, Celtics. They're the teams to beat, and I'm not sure anyone can beat either one.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, how excited would you be tonight to lay 10 with the Suns? Take it on San Antonio. Why are the Suns, Teddy, it feels like one of the most overrated teams in the market. They continue to burn money for backers, and yet everyone seems to think that we should be laying close to double digits. I don't care who they're playing here. How much faith do you have in the Suns moving forward?
Little.
Yeah. Being nice.
But it's funny. You get to about the second game of the first round in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take long. You're like, wow, this team's got nothing. That team's got nothing. Maybe because Phoenix has guys who can win games in April and May.
Yep.
If they're healthy, they may well be a better playoff team than they were a regular season team. My son's power number stayed fairly consistent for the months now. I have them as good, but not great, very good, but not great. And the markets have had them priced a little bit higher for me for the better part of the last 2 months. Every once in a while you say, hey, look, if you have the shooters that they have, it's indefensible. You can't, I mean, when the shooters are hitting, you really should not ever be able to stop that team. So there's upside.
Great.
But let's put it this way. I laid points in the NBA today. The team I laid with was not the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Fighting, man.
I know.
They're a feisty little team. Everyone talks about Wembanyama. There's a lot of guys on San Antonio. Pop's building something. You watch.
Yep.
Next year, that team can compete for the playoffs.
Yeah. Stop trying to make money on the favorites and the teams that are supposed to be good and look for teams, the fighters, that haven't thrown in the towel down the stretch like a San Antonio. And it's why Detroit has been so profitable since the All-Star break, Teddy. I mean, they finally got healthy. Everyone had stuck a fork in them because of the perception that they got. Hell no. Like, this team is fighting down the stretch here.
Hell no. No. Pistons got whacked. I bet against them the other night. They got waxed again by Boston.
I said after the All-Star break.
Ebbs and flows.
Exactly.
The Pistons fought the good fight. They got. I think they're a little punch drunk. I don't have them as a bet on team moving forward.
Yes. No, absolutely not. What do we got there? So we got at this rate, it may have a Colorado versus Boston finals in the NBA and NHL. I mean, Florida had both last year, as Miami and the Florida Panthers were both in the finals here, but I don't know that we're going to get a second team in that kind of situation, Teddy.
The NHL postseason is as random gets.
Oh, it is.
Okay. You just take, all you do is if you take every dog on the series price to begin the first round, you make money. All right.
Yep. It's so true.
There's no chalk in the NBA and NHL playoffs, and I don't worry about what the regular season looks like there. But we could see the Bruins and the Avalanche, but it wouldn't. It's just a matter of that's a sport about who gets hot at the right time and what goalie gets hot at the right time.
So true there. All right, one final question, Teddy, before we get you out of here. A lot of guys that are chiming in on the chat room. Andrew in the house, certainly appreciate you hanging out with us here, guys, today. Daryl, you guys are awesome there. Alfred, also there. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us here on Last Call. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you can. We do this show each and every Saturday, and we'll be doing it, of course, as baseball season approaches. Hard to believe that is where we are at here on the calendar, but the MLB will be back, and we'll have you covered with all the Major League Baseball content you need here right off the get-go. So hit the subscribe button, become part of the WagerTalk TV family. Shout out to those of you on Instagram joining us as well. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on Last Call. And Teddy, the last game here a lot of folks are interested in has to do with Illinois taking on Duquesne here. We heard Marco talk a little bit about this one here. If I'm looking at Illinois, I'm going to try to get something over somewhere. Team total, something over here, because I don't look at them as a team that is going to take their foot off the gas. 147, it's a double-digit situation for a 3 seed. How would you approach Illinois and Duquesne here today?
I have no fucking idea. Pardon my language. I really don't. Illinois bet on all the way. All right. Illinois and Duquesne. I'm not betting against Ambrose right now. And that team, team's playing with house money, and they're really well coached, and they can hang with anybody. It's an impossible game. It's an easy pass. I mean, I spent 3 minutes thinking about that game. I mean, all I was thinking about was the total, and I'm like, I don't have anything on the total because I knew I wasn't going to bet against Illinois, and I wasn't going to bet against Duquesne. I mean, it really is a very easy game for me. Good luck if you decide to play it. I have no idea what to do with it. It's bet on versus bet on. So you got to bet against one of the bet on teams. Have fun doing that.
Amen.
Bet on teams.
You don't have to bet them all, guys. You don't have to bet them all.
If I had it, I'd give it to you. I promise. I don't hold any. I'm on the show. I don't hold stuff back.
Yep.
I have no idea what to do with that game. I really don't.
Well, let me ask you this then, Teddy, since we completely alienated half the chat room with that one. Let's do this. No, honestly, I'd rather.
I'm not going to give you guys a BS opinion about it. I kind of lean. I don't lean. I didn't know what to do with that game. I passed it.
Yes.
I'm not going to make something up.
Yep. You ruined Big Daddy, by the way. It's the first time he's heard Teddy swear. Sure. He's now he's a wreck. He's got to go get therapy. You ruined Big Daddy, but that's all right.
I don't drop F-bombs on there ever. But I don't know what to F and do with that game.
Let me ask you this then. Quick look ahead to tomorrow's round of 32 games. Is there any direction you're looking at, maybe a game that piqued your interest here, or a team that you might think might be worth a bet on spot?
So again, I haven't gone through tomorrow's card the way I'm going to go, and when inevitably we do get off air today. But Duke's the one that stood out to me. Duke against James Madison is one that stood out to me from the get-go. I'm interested in the Blue Devils in that ballgame. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I'm interested. That's one. Maybe Grand Canyon again. I wouldn't be surprised to give Alabama. That'll be a fun game. Over in that game.
It's still amazing, though, this time of year that we get reminded. I mean, NIL money and all the great stuff. Kentucky is giving us every reason why not to get enamored with 5-star anything, because ultimately it doesn't. But, this Grand Canyon team, for instance, it's a lot of upperclassmen. I mean, these are older dudes that, are coming in. They aren't, enthralled by the moment. They're not overtaken by, nobody's taking pictures. This is a team, and I'll say it again, I still think there's always an advantage to having guys next to you that you have played with 2, 3, 4 years and been there and done that. You'll never convince me that switching a school every year is great for college basketball.
Me neither. Clearly, and that's what the latest excuse Calipari made. The kids are 24, our kids are 18. Okay, and he's right.
Yeah,
That said, you have a bigger recruiting budget, bro.
yes, that's the problem.
Significantly bigger recruiting budget.
That's correct.
You You can't do something with the better kids that you get. That's on you, John Kell. But look, I mean, the SEC had a rough day. Okay, Kentucky lost, Auburn lost. This doesn't mean the conference was awful. There will be an SEC team in the Sweet 16, maybe multiple SEC teams in the Sweet 16, maybe multiple SEC teams in the Final Four. Maybe, or an SEC. I mean, it's not like the fact that some of the teams lost and they didn't do well against the spread in the first round means that the whole conference is devalued. You can actually if you find your SEC team that you want right now, they're probably a little bit undervalued for what it's worth.
I agree with you 100%. All right. You got Brian Brown in the chat, jumped on, just partnered with you here, Teddy, on your plays today. Talk to us about what else is locked and loaded here today. What do you got rolling?
Yes, we've been running pretty good. We went 5-0 yesterday. I think it's 19-6 all sports and 18-5 college basketball and 80% NBA. I mean, they have some real good runs going right now. So you can get on board. I encourage you, never buy a play. I mean, never buy a play. Buy a package. All right. Plays, they're going to win, lose. I hope they win more than they lose. But if you buy a package, you get an idea about what I can do for you over the course of a week. Use promo code Teddy7 at checkout. Get $30 off a 7-day all-access pass. Again, Teddy7 at checkout. $30 off. I'll do my best for you guys every day. That I promise. Cheers.
Yep. Love it. Teddy, appreciate it, my man. Look at this. Thanks to my guy, Raineri, good coverage. You are at Miami Vice. Damn right, Darrell. Damn right. Here we look like Crockett and Tubbs. Well, maybe not. But yes, we kind of have that feel to it. And big shout out to those guys in the chat room, by the way, who joined us. Certainly appreciate you guys hanging with us here again. Teddy, locked and loaded, like I told you. Marco, locked and loaded here, guys. Plenty of college hoops still to come. Don't forget about the NBA. And don't forget about the rest of the shows that we've got here on Wager Talk. You got Carmine, you've got Andrew with Puck Time. And of course, I think the comment in here was that not being with the Prez does something to Teddy. And I agree 100% there. Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. That was a fantastic comment.
But then again,
that's a lot more fun.
You're in a good mood anyway, so it is what it is.
That's exactly it. Bottom line is, you guys, we appreciate it, the support across the board. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. How about a thumbs up for us? We'd certainly appreciate it. And make plans to come back and join us. I mean, the content is just rolling. Major League Baseball starts this week, and we have got you covered. So on behalf of Marco, Teddy covers, guys, best of luck with all the plays this weekend. We certainly appreciate you hanging out with us. The game is about 15 minutes off. Enjoy it. Enjoy the card. We'll talk to you again soon. Good luck.